Hello, guys, welcome to another episode of Read With Me. So, we are still on our book, The Mystery of Godliness Revealed, God in Man and Man in God by Elvis Agyemang. So, in this chapter, I'm going to touch on something I actually got a revelation on. That is in chapter 5 of this book. So, in reading this chapter, I noticed something I haven't noticed in a while. I've been reading the Bible for quite some time now. Currently trying to read from Genesis to Revelation. I'm currently in the book of Isaiah. But I've read the story of Abraham and Sarah before. But there's something powerful about this book. It brings your mind to certain things your mind has never gone to, or you've never actually sat down to think about. So we know the story of Abraham and Sarah told him to leave to a land that he's about to give him. So he actually left his parents' home with his wife Sarah to the land that God had promised him to, without even knowing where he was going. And in this story, we get to see Abraham and Sarah passing through Egypt, and the Egyptian king in an attempt to marry Sarah because Abraham had portrayed Sarah as his sister for fear of his life. But in this instance, God actually prevented that from happening. And before that actually happened, the Pharaoh actually gave Abraham a maid and other stuff presented to him as a bride price for Sarah. But after God prevented the Pharaoh from having sexual intercourse with Sarah, he didn't take these goodies that he had given to Abraham. So Abraham and Sarah left Egypt with the gifts from Pharaoh and also with the maid which the Pharaoh had given to him. And we see another instance of when Abraham and Sarah went to the land of Gerar, where the king Abimelech was. And upon seeing Sarah, he actually fell in love with her and took her to marry her. But God appeared to this king in a dream, once again commanding him to return Sarah to Abraham. So here we see two kings, two prestigious men, having romantic desires for an 89-year-old woman. Who at all was Sarah, and what made her so special? The Bible describes Sarah as a very beautiful woman, and from reading the story of Abraham, we get to see Sarah as a very spiritual woman who took her walk with God serious, to the extent that God had to change her name from Sarai to Sarah. But looking at the other side, you could realize that God didn't mind who Abraham slept with, because if he really minded who Abraham slept with, he would have stopped Abraham from sleeping with a maid from Egypt, like he did stop the other two kings from having sexual intercourse with Sarah. So this should tell you one thing: the promised child to be born wasn't dependent on the sperms of Abraham. It was dependent on the womb that carried the seed. When a farmer is planting, the most important thing to him is the condition and quality of the soil within which he plants his seed, because that is what will show whether the outcome of that seed, whether the outcome of all his hard work on that land would yield to something fruitful, or it will be all futile. That is not to say that Abraham's seed was not needed or necessary, because the seed and the soil play a key role in the formation of a tree. A seed can be great, have great features, but if the soil within which it is planted is not good enough, the greatness of the seed does not amount to much. Some say things like, whoever I marry doesn't matter. Once I'm a good man, I can change the woman. But that is only self-deception. Whoever your child spends a time with has a great impact on his life. And that is why you need to take much importance with this. God could have used the maid Hagar. God could have used her as the source of bringing the promised child Isaac into this world. But why did he overlook Hagar, a fertile lady in her young, vibrant age, and went in for Sarah, an old woman? That should tell you that even God prioritizes the source of the upbringing. If the source is faulty, it has a major impact on the child. Sarah might be old, but she carried something that Hagar didn't carry. Let me tell you a story. One time, growing up as a young guy, right after my BC examination, I didn't want to stay at home, so I was just looking for a job to just keep myself busy. So I just went to Tema factory. Tema is in Ghana, and it's an industrial area. So I just went into one of these biscuit producing factories in search of a job. So I got in there, just spent about 15 minutes just making inquiries, what I have to do, what I have to bring in order to be qualified to work in this factory as a factory hand. After coming out of the factory with just spending 15 minutes in there, I realized I started smelling like biscuits. And that should tell you the power of an association and the environment in which you find yourself in. I didn't enter the factory with the intention to come out smelling like biscuits. But no matter who you are and no matter what you carry within you, when you find yourself in the wrong place or around the wrong people, they can have a great impact on you. And the scary thing is that you might not know. It's just going to happen in your blind side, on your blind spots. You might not know. It's just going to happen unconsciously to you. And before you realize, you are becoming like what you are spending time with. And that is why you need to take who you marry very important.